It is official. The Oklahoma Sooners are in the SEC.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sport stops sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. I'm John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. This is Jay Smith. You can follow him on Twitter at Unfair Sports. And the Oklahoma Sooners are now in the SEC.
Listen to him. Listen. Yeah. SEC. That didn't take long.
Now, we're not going to play that all the time, but day one, officially in the SEC, Jay, we gotta chant it at least one time.
Yeah, you got to give the people what they want. The people want to hear the SEC, which I am super ecstatic about that happening. We've got the celebration coming up here in Norman, so make sure you stop into town if you're in the area. Paul Feinbaum is going to be doing some lives from around the area and having his show go on. So now we're officially there. We are in the SEC. So I guess for me, John, my question for you is, how do you feel about moving into, as they call, the big boy conference?
Dude, it's been 3 years in the making, like 3 years of just kind of waiting and biding time and dealing with Big 12 officiating and dealing with what's Oklahoma going to look like when they go into the SEC. And that final year of the Lincoln Riley era, as you watch them, drop games that they shouldn't lose once again, you may not feel super confident about where Oklahoma's heading in the direction of the football program with this idea that you're going to be going into the SEC eventually. But now, 2 years into the Brent Venables era, with what they've done on the recruiting trail, man, I'm feeling much better in a very confident place, maybe overconfident. I know SEC fans out there will probably jump in the chat and say, hey, John, maybe tamper your expectations a little bit. But no, it's exciting because this is what Oklahoma's been looking to get into for years. Have these marquee matchups against programs that have similar football statuses, with the Alabamas and with the LSUs and the Georgias and the Tennessees. I mean, maybe they don't have the national title success or track record that Oklahoma has, aside from Alabama and then Georgia recently, but the fan bases are rabid. The stadiums are huge. The pageantry is what college football is all about. And aside from like Jack Trice Stadium, you don't get a whole lot of that in the Big 12. When Nebraska left, the Big 12 just didn't feel the same. Boone Pickens Stadium is great, but it's not what Oklahoma is going to be facing when they get down to Baton Rouge or when they go into Jordan-Hare in Auburn. Like, this is a totally different dynamic that Oklahoma is going to be facing every single week.
Yeah, when you think about it, the biggest stadium that Oklahoma really went to go visit would be Nebraska, from the Big 12 era. And then after that, maybe Texas Tech, because with Texas, you don't get to go down there to DKR and actually be there with 90 to 100,000 fans, because we're at the Cotton Bowl with 80,000 split 40-40. So you don't get to experience those environments like you would in the SEC, where you're traveling to a rabid fan base and they're screaming at you and there's 70 to 80 to 90,000, right? You didn't get that really in the Big 12, unfortunately. And now, yes, like you said, we're not only are we about to see some crazy fan bases, we got to up our tailgate game, right? We've got to get it to where when they come visit us, they realize that the Sooner fans are also lunatics, right? We've got to prove to them that we're not uppity or high society fans. We're fans that are crazy too. We've got to go out there and show them a good time, being respectful, but show them that we are as passionate as they are. Now, it's going to be amazing to be able to see those places. Just as you mentioned, next season, going to Neyland Stadium, I've been there before. Oh, it's amazing. Going down to Death Valley. And if things work out properly, it'll be what we've been asking for and why Nebraska left. We just want to play Nebraska at night. Playing in Death Valley at night, oh my God, it is an experience. And I've luckily been down there as well. So doing that over Thanksgiving weekend, man, I'm just excited about being in the conference, being able to walk in there with, as we talked about last week, the blue chip ratio, having a very high ratio and showing that we can recruit because we are maintaining top 10 classes, something that other SEC teams aren't. We're getting those body types to even be able to last throughout a season within that conference. It's going to be fun. So make sure y'all show up to celebrate because, man, we're in the SEC. It's official.
Yeah, it's one of those moments in conference realignment history that it just changes the shape of the sport. Mm-hmm. I mean, the SEC was already considered the best conference in college football. And then you add a blue blood program like the Oklahoma Sooners, and it just raises the profile even more. You know, when the SEC can now go, they're the ones marketing the Red River rivalry. They get to market Alabama visiting Norman. They get to market Tennessee coming to Norman. They get to market Oklahoma going down to Oxford. This is going to be a marketing dream.
Man.
And you can see they're already enjoying it with the planned celebrations, what they got going on in Austin on Sunday night, and then what they got going on in Norman on Monday. I mean, they're building it up. Like, I don't see the Big Ten doing this for Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Washington. It's not happening. They're not having these big pep rallies to welcome these teams into the conference, at least from what I've seen. And if it's out there and I haven't seen it, then that's a big miss on the Big Ten's part. But the SEC, Greg Sankey, they're really just embracing all of this and what it means for their conference. And it's a celebration of college football. And it's going to have a huge impact on other sports as well. I mean, softball gets a bump with the conference that they're going into. Baseball gets a bump. Gymnastics gets a bump. Women's gym in particular. Women's basketball gets a bump going into the SEC. I mean, this is great for football, but it's great for a lot of the programs in the athletic department as well.
No, 100% agree there. And I haven't seen much from Fox when it comes to the Big Ten and their, new teams coming in. But we did see that the Pac-12 removed everybody from there. So they're now the Pac-2-ish or whatever they want to call themselves. But I will say this, though. Shout out to the SEC. They picked the perfect place to be at to actually open everything out. Because what they're doing this week is they're doing like a road trip, right? They're going to every campus and everything. But it's coincidentally, they're in Oklahoma on the 1st, which is the coolest thing. While at the same time, I figure they recognize the brand strength. They recognize it makes the most sense to be at the place where there's only one Oklahoma. You do that on the 1st. And so, yeah, Sooner fans, as much as, we're getting hate and we're not really being projected as one of the top teams coming in there, I think that the SEC and ESPN and all of them, they see a lot more in Oklahoma than the competition does. I mean, a lot of teams aren't very excited about playing us, right? They may say that, oh, you're in the big boy leagues now. You're going to learn what it's really like to play against real teams. But a lot of them have recognized that, no, Oklahoma's still a powerhouse. Oklahoma beats us in the bowl games. They're ready, even though they don't care about the bowl games when they lose. Everybody knows what's coming to Oklahoma. Hence why I think they picked July 1st of all times for them to be at Oklahoma to open up the fact that we're walking into the conference.
Yeah, they're going to learn about Oklahoma pretty quick as well. This is a program, again, with 50 conference championships, 7 national titles, 8 Heisman winners, and 4 of those in the last 25 years. So this is a program that, as Bob Stoops says, takes a back, or Brent Venables, I should say, takes a back seat to nobody and has a head coach that knows what it takes to win against the SEC. So, man, cannot wait for the schedule. Cannot wait to react with you here on Locked On Sooners to everything that everybody says. Well, I'm sure we'll have some great quotes from Paul Feinbaum and Brent Venables and everybody else that is on SEC Network throughout the day. But we'll react to some of the best out there. But big recruiting news as well. Got another Oklahoma commit for the 2025 recruiting class and several more decision dates coming this week. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Right now is the time to keep sporting. Even though sports are shutting down and they're not sporting like you want them to, FanDuel, it lets me keep going the sports in the way that I want to. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. I'm looking at the college football playoff odds, and right now Oklahoma is a plus 500. That's pretty far down the list, but I'm still feeling really good about where Oklahoma lands. We want to look at those win totals and just see, has anybody kind of come around on Oklahoma yet? And no, FanDuel's still sitting at 7.5, which I think is easy money right now with FanDuel. And so go check it out, FanDuel.com/locked on to make every moment more. FanDuel is an official sportsbook partner of Major League Baseball. And every recruiting segment here on the Locked On Network is brought to you by LinkedIn. Go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Also, go check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, also available on the Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Sooners get another commitment in the 2025 recruiting class. Darius Afalava, the 3-star prospect out of Utah, considered a 4-star prospect over at Rivals. So what do you see in him, Jay? What does he bring to the Oklahoma Sooners?
He brings a substantial amount of potential, right? He's kind of one of those players. He was the number one, as you mentioned, at Rivals, but he's the number one player out of the state of Utah on the Rivals rankings. And when I watched the tape on him, man, he can move for his size at like 300 and about 30 pounds. He's got some wheels, and he's got a nice little mean streak to him, right? And so he had came on my channel over at the Sooner or Later channel. He had kind of did an interview with my guy Coop, and man, he's like the nicest dude in the world, but at the same time, he wants Texas's head, and that got me excited because his buddy Tassili Akana plays at Texas. You know, he was a recruit we went after last year. He ended up at Texas. They're still buddies, and he's ready to go over there and block him in any play that they're both in at the same time. So he's already got the blood and the suit and the OU DNA in his system, because the first thing he thought about is how much he didn't like Texas, and he was ready to play against them.
Yeah, 330. He brings immediate size to your offensive line. He's not a guy that you got to bring in and bulk up. And it's encouraging when you get these guys that are guard ready. You know, so many times you're seeing tackles have to push into guard and they might be a little bit undersized. Now, this is a guy that is ready to play guard. He's going to be a guard. And you talked about the movement skills. He's got it. He's a physical dude. Obviously, he's going to have some technical things to work on with Bill Bedenbaugh to continue to refine his game and improve his game, but he is not afraid to try and punish a dude. Like, he's not just looking to block a guy. He's really looking to put people in the dirt and really win his rep. I really, really like what he does. When he does get out in space, it didn't seem like they used him a whole lot in that manner. They tried to use him kind of more inside and just going straight up field. But when he got out in space, he was very effective. I also really, really liked him. I mean, he played some tackle and he was effective that way as well. So this is a dude with multiple positional flexibility, and you got to love that. But I think he definitely will be best suited as an interior offensive lineman for the Sooners.
Yeah, and you mentioned that when they got him in space, like I watched him do a lot of pulls, so we know that Seth Luttrell is all about doing some GT pulling and everything and some counters or whatnot. When he was pulling, he was revving up and he was running right through those dudes. And so it's not a guy that's going to be able that's pulling and then he'll whiff, right? He makes sure he gets his contact and then he tosses dudes out the way. So I expect him to make a lot of space for the Sooners, and adding him with Ryan Fogier on the offensive line and then Sean Hutton as your, preferred walk-on, and then Owen Hollenbeck. Man, this offensive line class is really starting to fill out with players that look like someone Bill Bedenbaugh would take, mold into something special, and get drafted into the NFL.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of times guys that were maybe a little bit underrated or not highly regarded as far as the star status is concerned. Bill Bedenbaugh's done a lot with those guys, the dudes that have the intangibles that you don't always see show up in a camp setting or that show up on a stat sheet or on film all the time. A lot of it comes from the heart and the head, and those guys are the ones that really outperform their recruiting ranking. And I think Darius has a good chance to do that. On the recruiting trail, several decisions going to be made this week, starting on July 1st. Cortez Mills, the 4-star wide receiver out of Florida, a dude that my goodness, he is a fantastic wide receiver that Oklahoma looks to be the heavy favorite for. You look at the on-3 RPM, and they're like a 94% chance to land the kid. I think giving Miami just a little bit of poverty or what's the word? Courtesy percentiles there in that. But everything is trending towards Oklahoma. He's making a decision on July 1st. Who else is set to commit this week there, Jay?
We've got a busy week. So you've got Cortez Mills on the list. You got Smith Orogbo, the defensive end out of Texas. And I know that it was between Texas Tech, and Oklahoma. I believe he had a conversation recently with On3's Steve Wiltfong, and that may have been narrowed down. I'm waiting to find confirmation on that. But, yeah, you'll have him as well as Mark Ehinicher, the linebacker out of California. He actually is teammates with Jaden O'Neal. When Jaden O'Neal was here during the camp and he was doing his throws or whatnot, Ehinicher was also here on an official visit. And so if I'm correct, Jaden O'Neal came here at the exact same time to be with Mark so that, he could try to persuade him to play on the same team and saying, like, hey, won't you just go early year before? But that's between Oklahoma and SMU. So Monday, July 1st, not only going to the SEC, it's going to be fireworks for the week, no pun intended, with the 4th coming up when it comes to recruiting, because the 1st is full of days, so full of a whole bunch of kids. So that's the 3 we know on the 1st. And then later in the week, Omarion Robinson, the safety out of Arkansas, one that is a huge target for us. And Marcus Wimberly has been trying to recruit him heavy to join him. He also commits, but he commits on July 6th. So this week, there's potential for Oklahoma to go 4 for 4, or they could go 3 for 4 or 2 for 4. But I'm sensing there's at least 2 commitments that's going to come out of this week.
Yeah, no, Marion Robinson just had a big week at the Rivals Futures Camp, won one of the MVP awards, and probably got himself ranked a little bit higher whenever those recruiting rankings come out next, or when they update those rankings. But another potentially big-time safety win for Brandon Hall, who, is recruiting as well as any position coach in the country, in my opinion, with what he's done at Oklahoma over the last 3 years. If he adds Robinson to Wimberly and to what they've done in 24 and 23 and 22, it's just stacked at safety for the next several years. And hey, we're still waiting on what's going on with the offensive line recruiting. You got any thoughts on where Oklahoma might stand with some of these guys that we're just kind of biding our time and waiting to see where it's all going to land?
So there's 4 big offensive linemen that Oklahoma is trying their hardest with. You got Ty Haywood out of Denton, Ryan, Texas. You've got Andrew Babalola out of Overland Park, Kansas. You've got Lamont Rogers out of Mesquite, Texas, Horn High School. And then you wrap things up with Michael Fasusi out of Louisville. And Oklahoma is sitting well in all the respects when it comes to them. Babalola's big on the school portion of it, so we're seeing leans for like Stanford and Michigan to go with Oklahoma on that. He wants to be a business major, and I saw that he had kind of posted, I think he had started following some folks from the Price Business School here at Oklahoma, so maybe somebody's in his ear to help him try to come here. But that big 5-star is definitely, there's no date for him. I'm correct. He's a July, August area. Same for Michael Fasusi. He's probably a late July, early August commit. I anticipate both getting that done before school starts and their season starts. That way they can focus on football, not need to think about, commitment. That portion to be out of the way. Lamont Rogers, it feels like he's coming soon. He's the one out of Mesquite, Texas. He's also friends with Sean Hutton. We talked about that when Sean decided to commit to Oklahoma as a PWO. Lamont has been looking supposedly here in July that he wants to get that bad boy done sometime here during the dead period. So maybe in the next week or two, we may hear some words on the 4-star tackle. That would be a huge win for Oklahoma. And then Ty Haywood, it appears that it's really big lean towards Alabama. But I don't think Oklahoma is completely out of it yet. I think that they still got a puncher's chance, but having a puncher's chance doesn't mean that you're going to be able to come out of there and win that fight. If anything, I'm really big on Fasusi and Rogers right now. They really do feel like Oklahoma has really bridged a lot of gap. There's been a lot of heavy talk about them on social media, a lot of articles written about it. Make sure you go check those out. But it feels like there's a good chance with that. And I think Babalola is one of those that's kind of a toss-up. Just this depends on which academic program he values the most. I mean, Stanford does put offensive linemen into the NFL, and so does Michigan. So it's a really tough one to be able to say who would truly do the best. But of course, with Bill Bedenbaugh here, man, back-to-back years of sending his left and right tackle to the NFL draft and getting drafted is pretty huge accomplishment. So I'm hoping he evaluates us in that light also, because landing 3 of the top 4 offensive linemen would be amazing for the future into the SEC.
Yeah, it'd be kind of hard to go wrong between Bill Bedenbaugh and Sharon Moore and what Michigan does with offensive linemen. But here's hoping it turns out to be Oklahoma. But even if you just get 2 of the 4, dude, I think you get 1 of the 4, you're feeling good. You get 2 of the 4, man, you're riding high. You're sitting pretty, and you're really excited about what's coming down the road and what's going to be paving the way for these future running backs and quarterbacks at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's quarterback future is very bright, and I think that's an understatement. And 2 of Oklahoma's, one that's going to be starting this year and one that will be starting down the road, really stood out this weekend in the camp circuit. We'll discuss next, coming up here on Locked On Sooners. The Manning Passing Academy had pretty much everybody, a who's who of quarterbacks down there in South Louisiana, throwing the ball, slinging it around in front of the Mannings. And despite the overthrow that everybody's overreacting to from Jackson Arnold was one of the standouts of the weekend, according to people who were watching what was going on out there. Jackson Arnold had a nice weekend as well as anybody. I mean, he is going to be a really, really good player for the Oklahoma Sooners. But let me find out who it was. It was On3 that ranked Jackson Arnold as one of their top performers from Friday night. So, I mean, you got Carson Beck there, you got Quinn Ewers there, you got Jalen Milroe there, you got Jackson Dart, everybody out there, and Jackson Arnold is getting praise as well.
Yeah, and you saw Dylan Gabriel was out there. They were taking pictures together, showing the buddiness. I was kind of cracking up. I love to see that camaraderie because they're good friends, and one kind of took the other one's jobs. But no, Jackson Arnold out there was performing, right? When you watch some of the videos, the funny thing is, as you mentioned, the overthrow, the freaking out about it was, a lot of people also pointed out that you could tell that dude was slow. And Jackson Arnold is so accustomed to throwing the dudes that run 4.3, 4.4s, 40s. Mm-hmm. And the guy looked like he kind of pulled up, didn't think he had a chance of catching it. So if he's throwing it that deep, I think that all of our fast receivers will be really happy because, as everybody made mention about last season on some underthrows, if we got more overthrows, I think the wide receivers would be ready to just continue to reach out for it. But there was one video that actually was released showing the out routes. And man, he threw a laser, and it was like a perfect spot so the receiver could catch it, tiptoe, go right out of bounds. He's going to be good on the passes, like the hitches or whatnot, where they come back for it. You know that he's going to be pretty accurate and get it right there to the spot so the wide receiver can catch it and just fall out. But when you got the fast dudes that he's used to, he's going to be able to launch it, and that's kind of a very That makes you feel good, right? That's a positive for us because we're so used to the passes not making it as deep. Now you're going to be getting them a little overthrown, or you get the receivers out there being able to catch it in stride and continue to race straight to the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, you saw in some of those highlights that were being shown, guys having to slow up for a Jackson Dart. I'm not going to name everybody else that they had to slow up for, but wide receivers were having to slow up for some of these balls. Your quarterback might have overthrown one by 20 yards, but I'm going to take that as an aberration. And when he has Deion Burks out there, or Brennan Thompson, or Jaden Gibson, or Nick Anderson, you're not going to see very many overthrows because those dudes are going to be able to go get the football. And listen, I don't mind that everybody's going to continue to sleep on Jackson Arnold. The talent is there. The head is there. He's got everything that you need to be a really, really good, potentially great college quarterback. And I really think this is going to be the season that he has that breakout. And then we're going to get one and maybe even one more year after that of Jackson Arnold. Jaden O'Neal, 2026 4-star, probably not going to be a 4-star quarterback for very much longer. Really stood out on 247 Sports. Both really liked what they saw out of Jaden O'Neal at the Under Armour Future 50 camp this past weekend in Florida. Jaden O'Neal, dude, I think he just constantly is impressing people all the time.
From deep passes to throwing the ball on the rope into the end zone like a little laser beam and then doing a random backflip in the background. Love that about him. He is going to be something special. And my favorite part about just watching him go to these camps, he's basically advocating for himself. He's showing them, look, you see the talent, you know it's there. You need to go ahead and put the ranking at the top. And he's going to do this. It seems like going to camp after camp after camp just to continue to prove himself. And he's proven himself very well. He's getting a lot of accolades. He was one of the standouts for the Under Armour 50. He was the quarterback they pointed out, and we see why, right? You watch the throws, you watch the way he can move. They did a drill where he had to be mobile. He was avoiding the blitz and just throwing it on the run and putting it on a rope. Man, it is what we are used to here at Oklahoma. So the best part about it is for a lot of other schools, they will be overly impressed and super excited about it. For Oklahoma, it's like, okay, that's an Oklahoma quarterback. Let's continue the tradition as old as the game itself. And I think we will.
Yeah, and the other thing that really stands out from what people are saying about him is he's just a dude with a really positive energy. And that's exciting. Like a kid that seems very humble, but also very just positive, and he's going to go do the work, you know. And we've had, you know, the self-promoting style of quarterback in years past, and that was enough for me. Now I'm excited to find these guys, and for Seth Littrell. I mean, this is a great quarterback to build your future offense around. And Seth Littrell really, really hit a home run in recruiting and getting a commitment from Jaden O'Neal, who has a chance to be as good as anybody because he's got the skill set, he's got the right attitude, he's got the right mentality. And I think everybody who might have been talking about his athleticism as being a weakness, I think we're starting to realize that maybe that was a bit undervalued or underrated. And he's going to show as a junior and senior that he's just as athletic as he is a good passer too.
Yeah, I mean, he's listed as, of course, a pocket passer, so that's where the focus, of course, is. And everybody's wondering, oh, is he mobile? Because he doesn't really move a lot. And that's some things he probably does need to work on, which the best part is he's 16 years old. So he's definitely going to be working on it this year as well as next year. But no, he's got all of the tools and the intangibles you want at his size, at a legitimate 6'3.5", 6'4". I think he's legit 6'4". He looked a lot bigger than 6'3" when I saw him in person, but he's legitimate in his size, so he's not someone that's being propped up. And all he's going to do is get stronger. He's going to get faster. And from there, his entire football IQ and awareness and situational awareness and pocket presence and all that's going to do is improve because he's being forged in fire out there in California. A lot of players want him. They're trying to go and get him, and he's going to do nothing but prove everybody wrong about undervaluing anything about him coming in. So once 26 hits, I expect him to be right there at the 5-star status, if not being a actual 5-star.
It's going to be fun to watch his development over the next couple of years. I know Oklahoma fans will be tuned in with every throw this fall, at least every throw that they can find on social media or on internet this fall. Whoever that high school administrator is, they'd probably need to figure out a way to stream those games and just blast it out and promote it in Oklahoma because they'll want to tune in as well. But the quarterback future at Oklahoma is very, very promising with Jackson Arnold, Michael Hawkins, Brendan Zerbrug, Kevin Sperry in the 2025 class, and then with Jaden O'Neal in the 2026 class. And cannot wait. I know that 2026 feels like forever away. My father-in-law actually asked me the other day, he's like, 2026, is that for real? That's like 2 years away. I'm like, it is. It's unique. It's a little bit unique to be that far out, but he's locked in with Seth Littrell and Brent Venables. So we're going to be excited. We're going to be tuned in to what Jaden O'Neal does over the next couple of high school seasons. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Follow Jay on Twitter at Unfair Sports. I'm at John 9 Williams. I'm going to get this bet. I'm going to get this right.
You're going to get it.
Eventually. I'm going to get this right. I look at your name as opposed to your handle. We're going to get it. My bad. My bad, everybody. But hey, thank you for everybody that's thrown a comment on YouTube and just congratulating Jay, also on social media, and congratulating Jay and welcoming him to the show. He was a no-brainer addition to the show, and it's been a fun ride this first week as well. So cannot wait for everything we've got in store for you here on Locked On Sooners for the next 6 months, year, however long we get to ride this wonderful ride of talking sports. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube, hit that notification bell and that like button as well. For Jay, I'm John. Talk to you next time. Boomer
Sooner.